What's up, YouTube? So the new Path of Exile 1 update is coming out at the end of the month, and I think it might have something to do with Halloween. So let's get into my predictions for the new patch. So the first thing is, I think there's gonna be some kind of Halloween reference. Maybe it'll just be in the cosmetic, but if they don't have any kind of Halloween stuff, I'll be massively surprised. Next thing I think we'll get is maybe some new skills. In terms of what skills we'll see, obviously that's like impossible to predict, but I feel like we could get some shield skills because there's not really that many, and I feel like there's still room for like a design space around shields, especially like, blocking, and maybe we'll get some parrying type skills from like PoE 2 back into PoE 1. That kind of stuff could be pretty cool. New support gems. Obviously, there's always room for new support gems. I think that right now we're still kind of very stuck in the, just use whatever does the most DPS world. But I would like to see some more quality of life stuff that doesn't, break the build. I like things like automate support because I don't like clicking a whole lot. But the problem with automate support is that you then can't use, you can't use an aura because it's reserving fucking 80% of your mana. Like, I feel like you're already paying for the opportunity cost by just having to use that support gem in the first place. So I don't feel like having a cost multiplier attached to it on top of that. It just feels like really terrible. So in terms of support gems, obviously there's, I don't know, infinite places they could go with that realistically. But yeah, I would like to see some stuff that's not uber broken, but just some like low quality of life stuff. Obviously, we'll probably see the patented GGG triple nerf where they nerf something in 3 different ways without realizing it. This is on here as a kind of a free space. Something I don't expect to happen is mercenaries being core. If they do go core, I don't think they're going to go core in their current iteration. They're definitely going to get heavily modified because they were, I don't know, it just seemed like they were extremely powerful additions to the game, and I don't think they're going to want to ramp the player power that much in the first patch right after a expansion to the game. Now I could be wrong about that, and they might just, maybe they will go into core as their current power level, but I don't know. We'll see. A lot of people are predicting that there's going to be a survivors like mechanic in the game. This is one of Zizarin's predictions, and it's been a prediction for a while now. And I think with the rise of Megabonk's popularity, maybe, but I don't know because like they would have had to been working on it for like a couple of months. But we could see a survivors like in the future, if not this patch. The other possibility for the league mechanic is again like leaning into something like Halloween themed, since it's going to be like around that season, or even Christmas, like holiday stuff. Now in the past, they haven't really done a whole lot with that kind of thing. I mean, we obviously have the themed map and some microtransaction stuff, but I don't think they're gonna lean too heavily into that for like a whole league mechanic. Other possibilities obviously is something to do with like the final in town again, like they could expand that, fleshed out a little bit more. I don't think they'll do that just because that literally just like got added to the game. I feel like they would probably focus on reworking stuff, which is something that's further down the list here. Obviously, we're going to have a buff that ends up being a nerf in some weird way, which is going to probably delete a bunch of non-meta builds from the game because that happens every patch. Meta skills unchanged. This happens like every league. There's a meta skill that for some reason just miraculously escaped the nerf hammers. For a long time it was Detonate Dead, ED, that combination. But who knows? I also foresee that we'll be league starting ballistas again. Obviously, every league that has to be a Zizarin build, that league starts ballista, so they'll probably, release something that makes league starting ballistas even better. Seems like a guaranteed. Now, one of the things we could see, one of my predictions, I don't know how possible this is, but we could get the abyssal mechanics from PoE 1 or PoE 2 back into PoE 1. Obviously, it doesn't make a lot of sense because we already have Unveiling in PoE 1 in terms of the crafting mechanic. But we could get the other parts of it, like the, the boss fight, some of the unique items, the area itself could be added to the game, and I think that would be pretty cool. And we could just leave in, like, Abyssal Jewels as the rewards and stuff like that. Maybe even have a possibility of putting Abyssal Sockets on the stuff as a crafting option, because Abyssal Sockets are something that people really like to have on their gear, and it does open up the game to new builds. That could be a cool thing to see. Everybody's predicting there's going to be a new boss race because they just added a bunch of bosses and there wasn't a race last season, so that's just something people are putting on there. I think it's probably likely. If not, then I don't know really what the event will be for the league, but it could just be like a they're not really doing one because the whole new schedule, they're probably still getting used to everything as well. So we'll see. A lot of people are saying ES is going to get nerfed. Again, it's just like ES was really overwhelming in the last meta. I highly doubt that ES doesn't see some kind of adjustment. What I would like to see is just like maybe ES Leech get removed. Like instant leech with ES is like ridiculous of a combination. Like you can get fucking 100,000 plus ES and then have instant leech. So you're like you're never going to die at that point, and that's just ridiculous. And then you contrast that with the bottom left side of the tree that's supposed to be the like tanky part of the tree, and you're getting knocked over by like regular white mobs and T16s, which is just fucking ridiculous in my opinion. So maybe we'll see some ES reworks, maybe we'll see some armor buffs. Who knows? I highly doubt the armor buff thing will happen because like they would have to rework a pretty significant chunk of the game if they did that. So if anything, maybe we'll see a couple of masteries get swapped out, something like that. Maybe a couple new nodes added to the tree. Asynchronous trade. This is obvious. Like if they don't add async trade, I think people were going to be like really disappointed. Like it was a massive success in PoE 2 and everybody wants this for PoE 1 because nobody likes sitting in their hideout trying to message a guy to fucking trade for 7 days in a row and they're just not responding. So asynchronous trade, very healthy for the game. I know some people are like, oh, it's pay to win or it like lets people bot the game, but like realistically those are not real problems. That's just people complaining about things because they, don't understand the trading system in the game or they don't utilize it enough. Scarab rebalance. There's a couple of scarabs, obviously, last league that were way, way too powerful. They were giving out like massive amounts of loots. Like people were dropping multiple mage bloods in a map. It's ridiculous. I think we'll probably see a good chunk of those get either nerfed or like maybe they could move the Atlas stuff around slightly so it makes it kind of harder to justify those scarabs or something like that. The ways I can see it potentially, shaping out. Obviously, they could also just hit it with a nuclear nerf, but I don't think they'll go that far, hopefully. Overall, I think the game is in a really healthy spot. Like, I don't feel like they want to do, like, a really big changes right now, so we'll just see, like, some tweaks, hopefully. Everybody expects us to get the Zana fight right now. I don't know if we're gonna get that just yet, because, we just got the expansion. I feel like they're gonna save that Zana fight for further in the future, maybe even for the next expansion, but who knows, man? We've seen crazier things happen, so it is possible. I just don't see it happening myself personally because, like I said, we just got 2 new bosses added, 3 new bosses added last league, so I just don't see it. This is more of a personal gripe for me. Obviously, they're gonna buff melee by nerfing melee. Every league, man. Every league. So we're probably gonna get some new tier zeros. I expect to see some of the stuff from PoE 2, like working its way back into PoE 1. Probably some new stuff for the new bosses, obviously. There's good gear from those guys, but we've got the people who have their design a unique are still working on stuff, so I expect us to see at least 1, maybe 2 tier zeros. I think that's a pretty healthy number of tier zeros to add, each league. So just to give people something new to chase and not have to just, oh, here we go with Mage Blood again. But anyway, so the other thing I think could possibly be a thing is the Alva Temple can get reworked. Like, I don't know exactly how they would rework this, but I just feel like it's been in the game for a really long time. And outside of the rewards for it, there's not really, it doesn't feel like a good game mechanic in my opinion. Like, realistically, you're aiming to get like a corruption chamber or a gem chamber, like a sacrifice chamber. If you don't get one of those chambers, the rest of the mechanic just feels like doo-doo. Like, there are some people obviously that use it just to juice their map with like more mobs, but I think the vast majority of people that do use it are trying to target those like high tier rooms that you can just sell the fucking entire temple for like, a couple div or something like that, 30 div. But yeah, so I mainly play the game and trade, by the way, if you didn't know that. So that's where most of my opinions are going to be coming from. I do not intend to ever play the game in solo self found in any like meaningful way. I might play elite, I might play one of the gauntlets or something just for fun, but I'm not really a solo self found player. It just takes way too long to get geared up, and it's just obnoxious in my opinion. I don't really have the time to just sit there and play like 100 hours every week anyways. In terms of microtransactions, I'm hoping we get a new hideout mini game. They've been doing this for like, I don't know, the past couple of patches where they just add like a new little mini game to the hideout, and I think it's fucking hilarious. I don't want to see like someone that has all of them and it's just like their hideout as an amusement park. I think that'd be pretty funny. And and like I said, with Halloween, like there's tons of stuff they could do in terms of that. So one thing we could see is just a general tree rebalance. Like they did talk about like I want to say like a while ago about maybe pulling some of the PoE2 characters slash weapons back into PoE1. So if we do see like the spear get added to PoE1, they're gonna need a whole new section of the tree for that. So at some point, I expect us to see that. I don't know if it's gonna be this patch because, like I said, they did just do an expansion, so I doubt we'll get like crazy stuff this patch in terms of the tree. But yeah, it's mostly just gonna be reworking the stuff that was way too abusable last league. I imagine maybe a few new masteries, cutting a couple of the problematic masteries, that kind of thing. Another possibility is that we get a new ascendancy, or like a reworked ascendancy, in because there's still a lot of those basically afflictions ascendancies that didn't really get added to the game, and I feel like people want those still. Like they were really good ascendancies to have. Now, obviously, in Affliction, it was kind of hard to tell because you also had like your normal ascendancy stacked up on top of the Affliction ascendancy, what made it like really powerful. I don't think we're ever gonna get back to that because that would just be ridiculous. But yeah, I would like to see some new ascendancies. Maybe rework some of the ascendancies, especially the ones that are not performing, like the underused ascendancies. I know they rework some stuff sometimes and it just ends up being even less played. And I think, I don't know, like let's focus less on the like nerfing aspect and get more back into the, giving ascendancies actual power. Like I know they want to move stuff off of the ascendancies into the tree so it's more accessible, but I don't think it's necessarily more accessible just because it's on the tree, because there's certain things that like keystones, if it's on the other side of the tree, you're not going to do that even if you can. Like no one's getting a juggernaut and going chaos inoculation. You're wasting like fucking 40 points just to get over it anyways. So something I see is probably not going to happen, but I think it's a funny joke, is that we actually get defensive options and not just like, oh, here's an aura that gives you 500 armor or 5,000 armor, I should say, but like, real defenses. Block is okay, suppression's okay. These are like good stats to have, but I feel like at the current way that the game is balanced, if you do not have like block maxed out and suppression maxed out and fucking 30k armor and like 10 other things, you just die like instantaneous. Like I don't feel like it's a healthy for the game to require you to have 90% all res, including chaos, and then also have to have fucking 6,000 health, and then also have 4 defensive layers on top of that just to be able to do like the highest tier map content. Like, we're not talking about pinnacle bosses here, we're talking about like just mapping. I would say about 90% of my deaths in the game are to mapping. Like, obviously, once you get your DPS high enough, you can just kill bosses without even doing the mechanics. I mean, you have to do like 1 or 2 mechanics, but like you don't really have to fight them. Let's be real here. Like you just go in, you hit them a couple times, you go phase, and then you do it again, and it's the end of the fight. It's not like it's a real challenge once you've got the gear. The main problem is getting the gear, and you can't get the gear because you can't do the maps, because the mobs in the maps will just one-shot you randomly for no reason. Maybe we'll get rid of some of the really dangerous mods off of mobs. I highly doubt it. And another thing I could see them doing is increasing the power level of mobs. Like, obviously, I just said that they don't need to do this, but I could see it being a thing they do because the expansion did just come out. So, like, they could see it maybe as a thing that we need to lower the player power before we start ramping it back up again. So they could just buff a bunch of mobs. Hopefully, this will just be like a flat stat increase and not just a whole bunch of new fucking arch nemesis modifiers because it's like I don't think they think about the balancing of some of the combinations of things that can land on Arch Nemesis. Because sometimes you're like just nuking the map, and then there's that one guy that has like the perfect alignment of four keywords that just rips your whole map, and that's just an awful experience in my opinion. But who knows? We'll see. Another joke here, but basically they could just move speed nerf. We got to bring the game more in line with PoE 2. We can't have people just blasting the map. I think if they did that, it would literally make people lose their fucking minds. So I highly doubt that it will actually happen. But we will see. And the only thing I want to see in the game, like 100% right now, is WASD movement. Like, I fucking hate click to move. It is the worst part of the game, in my opinion. I just want to use WASD to move. That's it. If they just add that one change, I'll be happy with the patch. A little bit negative, a little bit jokey, obviously. I'm not trying to really degrade the game. I think it's in a really good spot right now, and they've been doing a great job with PoE 1. My opinion on PoE 2 is a little different. Obviously, I'm not that big of a fan of PoE 2 just because it feels really slow. Like, and I'm not just talking about the move speed stuff that they fixed kind of with sprinting. I'm talking about the game itself just feels incredibly tedious. Like gearing is there's no deterministic stuff in the game realistically, so you can't really work towards anything except by trading. Like in PoE 1, I know how to craft basically any piece of gear, and I can get there within a reasonable timeline of like, 50 hours of game. In PoE 2, it's literally did you pull the slot machine lever enough? That's the only fucking thing that matters. And yes, like they fixed it slightly with giving us the higher tier like crafting stuff where you can now roll like higher tier guarantee higher tier, results and stuff. So that does kind of help, but that's all of that I feel like is super metacraft. And they said that they didn't want to do that type of crafting. And that's the reason that they removed the crafting bench because they didn't want to have that kind of complicated crafting because it was like not good for new players. And then they immediately leaned into that type of crafting. So I don't know what the mentality is right there, but in my opinion, I don't think we should have more complicated crafting options. I think we should just have more deterministic stuff. Like the crafting bench is a really good thing in Path of Exile 1. It lets you, they're not the best stats, I mean, obviously, some of the things that are on there are like meta tier stuff, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about like throwing 20% fire resist on your gear. Like, that's not crazy good, but when you don't have 20% fire resistance and you have an open suffix on your gear and you only have the option of either slam with Exalt or fucking go over to crafting bench and guarantee you get 20% fire res, which one do you actually want to do? Like, obviously, you want to get the fucking 20% fire res. Because when you hit that slam and then it doesn't give you the stat you need, well, now you're just sitting there like, well, this item is fucking borked. Even if it's got 5 affixes that are really good on it, if you got one affix that's dead, now you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have to invest like a ridiculous amount of currency to get this dead stat off of here and hope it doesn't hit anything else. And then if it does hit anything else, then the item is really fucked up. So it just feels really terrible in my opinion to have an RNG system tied to progression like that. Like it doesn't feel good. And in PoE 1, there's a lot of things you can do. Like you can fracture an affix, then you can craft it. We also have access to scouring orbs that just lets you restart the fucking process without having to spend a ton of currency. Like I get a fractured item, I can roll it with a few alterations until I get a good mod, hit it with a regal, then go from there, right? Add a couple of things with other crafting options. Or I could go and get some fossils to kind of like manipulate the values in that way. Or I could use essences to throw in like one random stat that I might need. Like it's a way, way, way easier process to get the needed stats in PoE 1 than it is in PoE 2, and they're working on it. Obviously, with the Abyssal stuff, like, it got better, but there's still a lot of room for improvement, in my opinion. Anyways, long tangent over with. PoE 1, good place. Like I said, most of the stuff on here that's negative is just kind of joking, but it's just the typical league stuff jokes. But yeah, I think the game's in a great place. I look forward to seeing what the league is, and hopefully it's a good one. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. If you like the video, leave a like, comment what you think is going to be in the patch below, and subscribe for future content. And I'll catch you in the next one.